What's up, guys? Welcome to Dynasty Depot, where we care about all things Dynasty football, including defense, because defense matters here at Dynasty Depot. Well, welcome. I'm Andrew, your host, along with Ryan, and I think today we're getting into NFL Week 11. So this is after Week 10. This is our breakdown of Week 10. Nope,
Yep.
sorry. We're
This is
going into Week 10. Here's a breakdown of Week 9. There we go. Sorry, it's been a long week. And with that, let's go into our surprises of the week. Ryan, who was your surprise of the week, man?
yeah, man. So I have Rico Dowdle and Chase Brown. I'm gonna start with Chase
I
Brown.
love both of those.
Hell yeah, dude. Chase Brown. I believe the last 3 weeks he's put up 20 plus points. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's put up multiple 20 plus point weeks throughout the season. With that Bengals backfield definitely opening up, there's going to be a case for him. And then what's it? Who's the number? I forget the number two. Picked him up both. Um, but
Well, they
I
just drafted, or they just traded for Khalil Herbert.
yeah, but I feel like Chase Brown is still going to be that in that one spot for the rest of the season. Um, I just like his outlook for the rest. Definitely getting the majority of those touches. Um, yeah, I have Chase Brown, then Rico
Yeah, Chase
Dowdle.
Brown was supposed to be the Joe Mixon replacement, and he's been doing good. But they had Zach Moss get injured, which is why they had the Khalil Herbert trade.
Yeah, and Chase Brown is, I think, what, 24, 22, 23? He's young.
24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he
And
still has a
he's
lot.
210. He has that workload back that you like. He's not a skinny boy. So he can definitely take a hit.
His good projection. I like that. And then Rico Dowdle. Let me pull up his stats. I forgot to write those down.
Rico Dow's fun. I picked him up in a couple of leagues. I knew that he was going to be the running back. I drafted him last year as a rookie, and I had high hopes for him. And this week he played. He had 21 points. He had a receiving touchdown, 5 receptions, which was a surprise. I was never expecting Rico to be a reception specialist in the backfield.
A little tip.
But he's done it a couple times.
No,
What
yeah,
was
those are
that?
that little tip catch in the end zone.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, those are my two surprises. What do you have?
Nice. I have Trey Hendrickson. I know that Trey Hendrickson shouldn't be a surprise when I say him. This is someone that you expect on the DL, on the defensive line, to play every week. This week he recorded 4 sacks, one forced fumble, and he did a pass deflection too. This dude was everywhere on the field, and it was impressive to watch. The Bengals are starting to heat up. Their defense is definitely something that I would personally invest in, and it's just fun to watch when you have. I've always thought of Hendrickson as a young guy. I've never thought of him as aging, and the fact that he's 29, I think that right now is a perfect time to go get him. I think he's playing in his prime, and yeah, he had a great week. 44 points is what he put up in my league. We do 6 points for sacks. So sacks are heavily weighted. And 44 points up. He balled out. He usually balls out, but this was an exceptional performance from him this week. So with that, this has became my favorite segment, mainly because I get to sit down and listen because I have no idea what's coming up. But I'm always excited for this segment of our rookie segment with our rookie specialist, Ryan. Take the floor.
Yeah, man, sweet. So I'm going to start off with a running back out of Buffalo, our Ray Davis. He had 4 carries for 20 yards, but the big attention grabber, 2 for 2 on receptions, 70 yards total with like it was a 63-yard reception for a touchdown. It was like a 6-yard touchdown catch. Just showed off the athleticism there. I saw this guy at Vanderbilt in Kentucky torch my team, and you could just see that he has the build. He's agile enough. He's a big back. He runs hard, but he's quick too. He's really everything you want to see in a back. And I believe that was the Bills' longest touchdown reception since C.J. Spiller in 2012. So a little fact for you. I like Ray Davis. I believe
Really? That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, I like Ray Davis. If you want to go back to one of our earlier episodes, I believe it was in the mock draft. I talked about him a little bit. I like Ray Davis, and I think you should too. Next, I have Roma Dunze. I don't know how Andrew's going to feel about this one. But this
You know,
past,
I hold on before you say that. I did draft Roma Doomsday. I do have stock in Roma Doomsday. He was my favorite receiver coming out of the draft. I don't like Bears, but I love Rome.
gotcha. Well, you said you don't like Barrios?
I don't like the Bears. So
Oh, I
I
think
try to stay away from Bears player just from hatred, but I did pick up Rome. I loved Rome as a prospect.
you said Braxton Berrios. I was like, huh? So no, back to Robin Dunze. Yeah, five receptions for 7 targets, 104 yards. And this was his second 100-yard game this season. He ranks 15th in deep targets in all of NFL receivers. So that's something to definitely watch out for. Of course, with receivers, their season typically goes off how their quarterback is, and I feel like Caleb has been pretty hit or miss so far this season. Um, Overall, though, I like Roma Dunze, and I like his projection. Hopefully, he keeps it up, and that is a receiver I have. And on defense, I have
We got
the
defense this week.
I have the 99th overall pick, Cam Kitchens. There was talk about him earlier in the draft process being potentially one of the top safeties in the class. And he hasn't really had that many snaps going on in this season. He's, I believe, is second on the depth chart right now for the Rams, but I forget who's ahead of him. There's some smoke coming out that Cam is going to try to take away some snaps from his from the guy ahead of him based off his play so far this season. Like I said, Cam snaps aren't as consistent as you'd like, but last week he put up 2 interceptions with 1 pick 6 and 3 tackles. I see him more as a developmental guy, something that you could probably pick up, throw him in there. Don't start him, keep him on your bench, see how he goes. And I have a tie-in for that later in the segment or later in the podcast. But it's going to explain that Cam Kitchens pick a little bit more too. But I like Cam Kitchens. Keep your eye out on him. If you have a spot, snag him. If not, keep your eye on him closely.
There we go. I love as we go into the defensive segment now. When you're talking about your DBs, I love safeties. I've said it before, especially ball hawks, and it looks like Cam Kitchen can definitely get there and become one of those ball hawks. Your consistent turnovers. He does fly around the field, so it's going to be fun to watch him develop as a safety. I like that pick a lot. I guess while we're talking about kind of the education side of things when it comes to defense of fantasy football, just as much as I like safeties and your slot corners, I want to talk today a little bit about your linebackers and how much this ties into a couple of things that I have. When we were talking about Trey Hendrickson earlier, I think when you're looking at your linebackers, I've started to switch to. I used to be a big tackle linebacker guy. And with that, I would pick something like Cooper from Green Bay. You have Simmons out there. You have Trevon Walker's a great guy. These are guys that could get to the quarterback and do get to the quarterback, but they're mainly you're picking up those 1.5 points. They're not really defending passes. They're really run stoppers slash in the middle of the field. They're tackling the slant routes. So they're going to lead the team in tackling, which is consistent points, which is what you want. But I've actually switched this to the linebacker defensive lineman. So my linebackers I've been putting as like Micah Parsons is in there right now. He doesn't play the traditional linebacker role. It's all edge. And I used to traditionally put these guys only in the defensive line slot. But you have people like Micah Parsons, Trey Hendrickson, even Will Anderson. Those are all players that you should be putting in your linebacker spot. Because I think right now, with the way offensive lines are across the league, I'm willing to take the risk of a pass rusher in a linebacker spot instead of the tackling linebackers. Depends on your league, of course, and it depends on your situation on your team. but I'm targeting these players more than anything else, and I'm not really paying attention to these tackle linebackers anymore, especially not as much as I used to. So I've really been enjoying that part of like the defensive fantasy league. I've recently picked up Jonathan Cooper, which is a true D lineman. In the sense of sleeper, he's not a linebacker. Uh, but right now, I filled those DLs up with true defensive linemen that I think can get to the quarterback, and I've been switching to people like Will Anderson and Micah Parsons in my linebacker spots. But for a player I want to talk about is when we're talking about a cornerback that gets looks like Kitchens or a DB that gets look like Kitchens. I'm looking at Antoine Taylor. I liked him when he was the number two cornerback. He got a lot of looks, he gets takeaways, and he's quick on the ball. But they just got rid of Mike Evans' favorite guy in the NFC South when Marshawn Lattimore got shipped out of there. Antoine Taylor's going to get all the looks that he had. He's going to increase his workload and he's going to get more looks just because he's not necessarily their number one guy in history and he's going to have to step up into that role. So I think especially this year, Antoine Taylor could be a league winner with Marshawn Lattimore out of there. And even with Marshawn Lattimore in there, like I said, he was a consistent point scorer that honestly is a CB that I want in my roster to fill a DB spot. Doesn't fit my traditional slot corner slash safety, but he's a consistent point scorer when it comes to your CBs. I don't know if you can get better than that. But yeah, that's my little defensive segment of the week. And with that, I want to go into our. Did you have anything to say to that, Ryan?
I have a defensive segment. All right.
All right, go for it, man.
All right, man. So, like I talked about earlier with Cam Kitchens in that safety role, I'm gonna talk about another DB slash linebacker in that Rams defense. I had a guy from my high school. This isn't about him. Played safety, played at Kansas. Ended up signing to the Rams. He's also a safety. I think they're really trying to fill and find a guy to take that role. Because of really, I think lack of success um, and their safety play overall as a group. I could see Cam Kitchens going in there, but they also picked up a guy out of Tennessee, Jalen McCullough, which, funny enough, also a rookie. Um, but they bumped him down from safety to play linebacker this past week. He had 70% of the snaps, which is the second highest on the team for linebacker position. He's 6 foot, 202 pounds, so he's not your big Mike. Definitely with his DB background, is going to be more pass coverage rather than your big tackle linebacker. But this past week he put at 7 tackles total with 3 solos. I could definitely see him getting more reps in that linebacker role, and something that you can look forward to going down the line. And especially with him being a rookie, there is that allure of development as he goes on. Um, I don't believe he had that many snaps throughout the beginning of the season because he was in that safety room battling it out. And I think Cam Kitchens definitely solidified that spot in the second, um, in the second string. But there's just some guys who can't keep off the field; they're just too athletic. And I like Jalen McCullough as a guy that you should probably keep your eye on and see how his development in that linebacker room plays out.
Interesting. I have mixed feelings about that, and that's just because I feel like in the NFL, and I think of Isaiah Simmons when this comes to mind, someone that was safety and was switched up to linebacker. It's really started this trend, and I don't feel like, especially in a fantasy perspective, that we've seen enough benefit of a safety coming into a linebacker. I think it's great scheme wise, but I don't think it produces the fantasy value. Because I think when they come down, it's a smaller body defense when you have them start coming down, which I feel like they don't get the looks that we want them to get when it comes to fantasy. Like, if they can do a pass defense in that, that's great. But usually I've seen a lot of teams start doing just bull rushing that, a zone rush into that linebacker safety duo. So I think it was really big when it first happened in like 2016. I don't remember the exact year that Isaiah Simmons really did it, that really started that trend. But like that's my big grief with those. Um, but I think it's definitely something to watch out for, especially a rookie coming out of there where he can take the traditional linebacker role, and maybe put on some weight, and actually do that because he's not really converting. I don't consider when you convert a safety in college to a linebacker. The college game is so much different than the NFL game, and they're going to develop completely different. So if he's going to be developing as a linebacker, I'm excited to see how that works.
That's why I think the long term play is there in LA. I don't think they're going to use him kind of in that Isaiah Simmons role, which I
Hmm.
was big on Isaiah Simmons. They could throw him on the line, they could have him play back, or they could have him play safety corner. Truly an athlete. But I think with
Hmm.
oh, I just lost you real quick. Someone is calling me. Technical
Mr.
difficulties.
Popular, eh?
Hey man, it's I got one for you later. Um, but well, with him, I think they're going to try to develop him into a linebacker at that role. Um, and just definitely keep an eye on it. Because if you can take that second linebacker spot and really solidify that role, I like it, especially him being young and someone that we didn't see. And a lot of websites, and I believe on the roster, they still have him listed as a safety. But when you're taking 70% of the snaps, that it's a little
Mm,
telling.
linebacker rule. Yeah,
Uh, When
that's
when you're
definitely something to keep an eye out.
when you're number two on the team in snaps overall for linebacker, I definitely think they're going to try to transition him there to that position. So keep an eye out. But
That is good to know. With that and our defensive segment, I think we should go into what we started last week, and I'm excited about it. We only got one because we actually have trade targets this week too. Keep, trade, fleece, and this is something that I don't know how I'm going to answer yet. And Ryan doesn't know these ones. I said one name earlier, so he kind of has an idea of what it is, but he doesn't know the names. Is Max Crosby, so it's going to be defensive lineman. Max Crosby, Miles Garrett, and TJ Watt. Keep, trade, fleece.
good. Um, keeping TJ, trading trading Garrett, fleecing Crosby. Reason being,
Okay.
you can get a lot of value out of Max Crosby right now. He has the name, and last year he did really well. Let me see how old he is, because that's my biggest concern with that off the top of my head. Uh,
They're all around the same age. They're all in their late 20s.
27. Oh, yeah.
They're all uh, in their prime when we talk about NFL defensive lineman age.
How old's
They're
TJ?
all producers.
How old's TJ? Oh, TJ's 30 years old?
Yeah, man.
Dude. Oh my gosh. Let me switch that up. Um, how old's Miles Garrett? Because that might totally alter how I view this.
Miles Garrett's 28.
Yeah, I'm keeping Miles Garrett. I am. I'm still trading Max Crosby, and I am fleecing TJ Watt then. Uh,
Really? Okay. Just
it's
based off age. Age changed that whole order around, eh?
the Miles Garrett's an absolute freak. He has been it since his Texas A&M days. He's been a freak in the NFL. All these guys are producers. They're all going to get you points. But I just like the way that Miles Garrett can just move around on the D line, and he's an insane athlete to begin with. And he always has a good potential for breakout games whenever. With Max Crosby, like I was saying earlier, um, big name. Yeah, people know who he is. He's a solid defensive end. Really gets after it. Um, I like him, and I guess that's why I'm keeping that trade because it's you can trade him for value, and whoever as long as you're not fleecing someone, you're trading him. I definitely think you can get some fair value out of that. Even with TJ Watt, like he's still going to produce, like you said, but that age factor is definitely getting to me a little bit, especially when you're looking at the dynasty perspective. Um, does he have any injury? Like you picked three really good guys, Andrew.
So the way that I'm gonna go with it, right,
Yeah.
is I think so when I look at my fantasy roster, yes, I understand the longevity. If I pick up like I think Miles or Max Crosby's 27, right? I'm assuming that I can get 4 or 5 years out of him. Um, just kind of the state the dynasty's in, the fact that you can think about someone on your roster for that long just doesn't bode well with me. I think when you're looking at dynasty football and how quickly it can change if you're a contender, if you're a rebuilder, what you're trying to do and stuff, I really don't want to think more than like 2 years out. I feel like 2 years, maybe 3 years, um, when you're looking at this kind of thing of production, I feel like TJ, I can pick up TJ now. TJ is going to produce for me this year. He's been producing. He's just coming off a bye week. Before the bye week, he had 30 points. He's had multiple games in the 20s this season already. And I think he's going to produce for another 2 years. I don't see his decline at 32. Um, Maybe a little bit of a drop off. Which is actually why I'm going to put TJ as my trade for this situation. Is because I think that there is something there that you can still get value for him for his age, and you're not going to be taking a discounted value. Whereas if you trade him in 2 years, you'll have to take a discounted value for his age. That being said, I'm keeping Myles Garrett because he's just an absolute dog. All three are absolute dogs, but Myles Garrett's going to be in Cleveland for the rest of his life, and they've never been able to figure out offense, and he just gets the most looks. They're just going to be a defense team. Their defense is going to be on the field a lot. Um, that being said, I'm fleecing Max Crosby, and there's one glaring reason why I'm fleecing Max Crosby. I love this dude, and honestly, if they had a quarterback in Las Vegas, this changes my whole opinion about this whole three setup because I would keep Max Crosby if they could figure stuff out as a team organization, starting with their quarterback. But there is so much turmoil happening in Las Vegas right now when it comes to that team that I cannot say that Max Crosby is going to be on that team next season. I have no idea what his situation is going to be. He's going to be a question mark. And if he is on Vegas, I have no idea what that team's going to look like to be able to predict Max Crosby's production in good faith. So that's why my order would be keeping Myles Garrett, trading TJ, and then fleecing Max Crosby right now.
So
Because Max Crosby scares me. But I
you're
think
not buying on the TB12 program out there in Las Vegas.
there's nothing to buy into right now. What, Tom Brady's there?
Yeah, he's an owner.
I I don't
He's a winner.
know
He's a
how he is as an owner. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying Tom Brady at all as an owner yet. But that's how I would do it.
understandable.
So with that being said, I know we did a lot of offense last week. Our trade targets are actually all offensive, besides the ball. And I wanted to split them up this week with some rebuilds. So who to target if you're rebuilding, and who to target when you're competitive. And in Dynasty football, at this point, we're going into week 10. We should know if we're a competitor. We should know if we should be looking into next season. And we should know if we know how to draft. I mean, we're going to be doing another cargo shipment here soon, which is our mock drafts. For 2025, our way too early mock draft is coming out soon. But for a rebuilding team, I have three players that I want to talk about. And they're going to be JJ McCarthy, Trey Benson, and Jalen Cocker, man. And I want to start with Jalen on Carolina. And Carolina is a huge red flag for anyone. Um, but you're starting to see Bryce Young develop as a QB slightly, and Jalen Cocker is now their wide receiver two there behind Leggett. And he could take Leggett's spot because Cocker has been streaking, man. This dude's speedy. This dude's fun to watch. This dude's shifty. And he's kind of emerged out of nowhere. He was really on no one's chart. And him and Bryce Young seem to be having a great connection. Bryce Young seems to be having a great connection with Leggett, too. But not many people know about Cocker, and I think Cocker can be a sneaky, sneaky little pick here to be a good wide receiver, at least depth wise, in the next couple of years. I don't know if you have anything to add to this, Ryan.
Honestly, I'm not gonna sit here and BS you. I haven't watched that much of the Panthers offense. I do know, um, I like Xavier Leggett. Long term, I like Xavier Leggett, and when he comes back, let's say, is it Cocker or Coker?
I'm gonna say Cocker. I think it is Coker.
Well, Cocker, Coker, tomato, tomato, whatever it is. Um, you don't draft Leggett. Like it's how does that Panthers offense mature going into next season? Let's say you have Coker, Cocker. Let's say you have Leggett. How does that wide receiver room look? I'm not saying this in a negative way. It could benefit both of them. It could depending on how the quarterback play is next year, and that's a big asterisk. Um, could maybe be a potential Tampa situation to a discount version, where you have a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin like situation when you have both really good wide receivers that you want to get the ball to. Um, do I see that happening? I think that's more of a question of if they have Bryce Young back there taking snaps. It depends on who they have back there and if they can upgrade their quarterback room. Um, but yeah, no, if you're high on him, since I haven't really watched that much film on him in general, I default to you because I do trust your evals 85% of the
Except if it's Anthony Richardson.
time.
So So honestly, with the Panthers offense, I kind of see it more of a. If we go back 3 years or so to the Washington Commanders, when they had Sam Howell and all that stuff, it was a very average team across the board, average to below average. But you had Scary Terry out there, but Scary Terry was not getting the looks because that was the only guy to guard. Everyone else in that team was the one that was thriving fantasy, thriving, quotation marks and thriving. When it comes to that offense, they were the ones getting the fantasy points, which is kind of what I see with Jalen here. Is I think Leggett is going to be the only one. I have no idea what Panthers are doing right now. They just signed Chuba to a 3 or 4 year deal or something like that. I am very confused with how they're building this team, which reminds me a lot of how the Commanders did it. And how to take advantage of that, I think, is to get some of these 2, 3 guys that are going to be getting a lot of the looks because everyone's going to be focused on 1, 2 pieces of this offense because they just are not building a balanced offense. Um, Subpar to average quarterback play with subpar to average running back room to a subpar to average wide receiver room. It's going to be your number 2 and 3 wide receivers are going to get the looks. You shut down the number 1 option on both receiving and rushing, you're going to have the number 2 guys going to be the one that thrives in the fantasy in this situation. That's just kind of how I see with Jalen, and we'll see if I'm right, but he's starting to get more looks, and I'm excited to see how he develops as a player. This week, too, they play the Giants, so if he's on the waivers still, he might not be a bad pickup for the Giants, because the Giants are ass. Um, that being said, I know that this is going to be a little contentious, so I'll let you start this conversation, but I have one of my trade targets as Trey Benson. And I know that Ryan beforehand, before we said this, I said that we are going to talk about Trey Benson. He was like, I will never trust a
Say running.
FSU running back, which is crazy because you have Dalvin Cook. Not like you don't own Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook is an FSU
Hold
running
on.
back. And yeah, I just want to hear your take on this.
Yeah, and I'll kind of expand on that a little bit more. Dalvin Cook, phenomenal athlete, NFL, college. Um, no argument there. But I mean, since he's gone, I mean, really, I believe Devontae Freeman was at Florida State too. But these new wave of Florida State running backs with Mike Norvell, he likes a short, stocky guy, that can hit you, right? You have that in Trey Benson. Cam Akers is a smaller individual, and a couple podcasts ago, I went off on Cam Akers. Not a big fan. Don't like the projection there, and I can see Trey Benson being a higher value than Cam Akers in the long term. Um, but I just never see him being that feature back. I could see him almost having a Zamir White year, um, next year. He's getting touches. I believe what did I have him down? He has one touchdown on the year, 39 carries, I believe. So I mean, Arizona's trying to get him the ball. I just don't think that he's going to project into a guy who's going to take that running back 1-2 spot on your team. At best, I could see him in one of your flex spots, down the line. But he's going to be a three down back. He's going to get touches. They're going to try to get him the ball in the red zone. I just don't see him developing into what you want to see, what everyone sees out of him. And a lot of people are saying trade for Benson, pick up Benson if you can in your league, depending on how your league is looking size wise. But long term, I just don't see that playing out. But Andrew, tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think Trey's gonna be the next guy up for James Conner, who's there. James Conner has been an exceptional back for multiple years, but he's definitely on the decline. And like you just said, he is a three down back. Trey's a three down back, and he's going to take the look. I honestly see this as more of a Rico Dow situation where there isn't a ton there, but you know this dude's going to get the looks in the future. Rico was not an impressive prospect at all, and I actually think Trey, as a prospect, is much better than Rico, but we knew Rico was the future at least for a season or two in Dallas, which has panned out to be true. But Trey, he was behind Pollard last year. We knew Pollard was on the decline. We didn't know what they were going to do with him. Ended up letting him walk. Trey Benson is going to be taking this James Conner role. He's in a great room with James Conner to learn this position in the NFL level. And I think he's going to be getting a lot of looks and be a centerpiece of this Cardinals defense or offense, which they produce fantasy points. Whether or not they're good or not, they're not. But Trey Benson will thrive in a fantasy positive offense, is what my feeling is. And I'd be willing to trade something around a third round pick, maybe a little bit more, depending on the type of league that you're in, is kind of where I would place them. So I'm not selling the farm for this. I'm selling something that probably has a 30% hit rate. I'm drafting the third round for Trey Benson. I think it's completely worth it, in my opinion.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So my third target I want to go for a rebuilding team is J.J. McCarthy. I love J.J. He was ranked my number one quarterback. That being said, last year my number one quarterback was AR. He's benched for the rest of the season. Um, that also being said, 2 years in a row, my number one quarterback coming into the draft class got injured. The number two quarterback ended up being the best quarterback in the draft class. Uh, JJ though, injured. I feel like people I feel like people were high on JJ and his value has only gone down since the injury with the emergence of Sam Darnold. But JJ McCarthy is the future in Minnesota, and his tape was great. He didn't tear his ACL, it was a meniscus thing. He should be able to come back from this. And I think that we're able to get great value for him. And I'm willing, still willing at this point, to give up a first round draft pick for JJ McCarthy in the future, just based off of how bullish this QB class has been. and how friendly an Aiden McConnell offense is for quarterbacks, the fact that he drafted him in the first round, I see no world where JJ McCarthy is not at least a slightly above average quarterback in this league. And I think that's willing to give up the draft pick for the rebuild, depending on what your other team looks like. And if you're stuck with someone like Bryce Young, you might think about trying to trade him off now that he's playing and getting Mike McCarthy or JJ McCarthy. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I'm kind of indifferent on that. I'm not. I don't think he was the worst quarterback in the class. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the class. Um, is he going to start? Yeah, he is the future. And I think you're right about that. I would agree. Um, I just the knock that I have is he just doesn't. For me, watching him play, I think the reason why he was so good at Michigan was because of the players he had around him. I think the offensive line at the college level was extremely well at Michigan, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna save that
Yeah,
hot
I would.
take later, but
Okay.
I'm on it. I'm eh.
Yeah. I mean, you say that. I say Aiden McConnell's system's great. Their our offensive line is great. They have Addison, they have Hawkinson, and they have JJ.
They
Aaron Jones right now. We'll see how long Aaron Jones stays there. But
they have weapons, but because I look at him and it's just I don't know how he will perform week in week out in the NFL. That is my main concern.
valid. So like a consistency thing.
I wouldn't say consistency, but kind of in a way. As Kendrick Lamar says, I am conflicted. So I don't.
Cool. With that, we will move on, and we'll go into trade targets for competitive teams. And I know in one of my leagues, I have the 20-man defensive league that I do every year. Gets very competitive, and I am making the home push right now. And I'm actually in talks for two of these, which I guess I can go first. Is I am very bullish on CMC as a competitive team. If you are in a spot where you have youth on your team and your draft picks aren't as valuable for rebuilds, right? When you're talking about a team that's rebuilding, CMC probably broke someone's season that they are in a position where maybe they were competitive and now they're not, that they would be willing to trade away CMC as an older running back and be able to draft with that to make their team even better. So next season or the season after is when they'll be hyper competitive. So I'm willing to go out for CMC being bullish this season. I know the in the league that I'm talking about, CMC owner won the championship last year, and he is not doing good this year. He's most likely not even going to make our playoffs. Where that first round draft pick that I'd be willing to give up for CMC's first round plus, don't get me wrong, he's not worth just a first round draft pick. He's not going to be cheap, but he's going to give you the CMC production. He has been working out this whole time. This has been a workload issue, which is why he hasn't been in. That's why we had that whole debacle in the beginning of the season. It's not like it was a torn ACL. Dude has been able to be working out, been able to be in team meetings, and I'm excited to see his production when he gets back because this offense will still run through him. You look like you had something to say about that, Ryan.
No, I love the CMC take right there. I was trying to get him earlier in the season. Andrew and I made a trade, and I was feeling myself, and I thought I could make something happen. Unfortunately, I couldn't. Yeah, the guy who had CMC wasn't being too friendly in the trade looks. No, long guy. I like CMC to be competitive this year. Definitely an older back. But he's gonna go in, and I believe he's gonna take the majority of that workload in San Francisco. And then Christian McCaffrey, and he's gonna get you points. Um, And to the point that you said earlier, with it not being ACL, MCL, whatever tear that would be, it was just tendonitis. I believe was it Achilles tendonitis? I
Yeah, I forget the name
He
of it,
had
but
double
it's
Achilles tendonitis, and he had to go to Germany to figure that one out. Um, so I think really the CMAC owners, like you said, are chalking the season up. So no, I really like your take there.
yeah. And also, just to kind of put it out there, I would not expect the same kind of production, but he is signed to the 49ers till 2027. So it's not like you're just going to be trading it for like this season and be done with him. You will have CMC on your team potentially for the next couple of years, or win your championship and trade him out for more draft capital um, back after that. The second one I have is DeAndre Hopkins as a league winner. Trade for if you're competitive. And the reason I have D Hop on here is because he has Mahomes. He finally has a quarterback his whole career. He finally has a good quarterback throwing him the ball. They are banged up. So D Hop's been getting a lot of looks here. Like, I'm just completely blank. Gonna be getting I just malfunctioned. Um, but no, D Hop's gonna be getting a lot of looks here sooner rather than later, because they're gonna get Rashid Rice back at some point this season. I'm pretty sure because they avoided this tear. So he's gonna have the weapons. You have to deal with that, and then sorry, not Rice. You're gonna get Pacheco back. So they're going to get some of their targets back that they're banged up on, but especially right now, if you need to win a couple of games to get into the playoffs, D Hop is a great target to go for because there's just no one else to throw to on that team. Travis Kelce is washed, I will say that, and I will die on that hill. And D Hop proved in his home opener that he's a guy for Patrick Mahomes. And I'm excited to see how he develops in that offense and what happens when they start getting these weapons back. So, what's your thoughts on that, Ryan? And then take me to your guy next.
I know I really like that take too. I think we have two older wide receivers here, but I think D Hop getting in an offense that is finally going to be friendly for him is going to pay off dividends. So I could definitely see that be helping you win your league. Um, and yeah,
Yeah,
I love D Hop as a player in general, so I've always been high on him. But yeah, what were you gonna
yeah.
say?
The I also would be willing. I think this is important to state too when we're talking about trade targets. I value D Hop as a high to mid tier second. Is kind of what I would be willing to give up for value wise. Figure that out player wise, straight up. But that's what I'm willing to give up for D Hop. I've seen some people take a first, which I think that is very bullish when you talk about his value. I'm not willing to give up a first no matter what position I'm in. Um, I take that back. If I need a wide receiver because I'm banged up, I will give a first. If I'm competitive and I need to fill a void that something happened this week, which I can't think of anything on top of my head of someone that got injured recently that would be a league buster. But if you're in that kind of position, D Hop would definitely be worth more than a second. But if we're just talking about a standard trade, I wouldn't trade more than a second for D Hop.
I think that's a good evaluation there.
So
Agree.
now take me to your guy because it's a different situation, but same idea. I feel like.
Yeah, so I have Mike Evans as my trade target. Coming back right now from injury, he won't be back, I believe, until week 12, right? So any Mike Evans holders right now are going to feel a little fatigued from having to watch him sit for 5 weeks. Um, he's been out right now. He's not going to play this week, and then not going to play the next 2 weeks. Well, he's not going to play this week, week 10, because still recovering. Week 11, the Buccaneers have a bye week. And then after that, I think he's going to come back, and I think that's why they didn't place him on IR. Right now, I like Mike Evans coming back into the offense. The Bucks, we really haven't looked the same team wise. I feel like since we've lost Godwin and Evans. So that's just gonna be another target for Baker to get the ball to, and Baker and Mike have a really good connection. Mike Evans, I'd say probably one of the best Buccaneers wide receivers, and I don't think anyone can really argue that. Probably one of my top three Buccaneers in general of all time, and that's contentious. But he's gonna get you production this season. He's gonna help you push you over the line. He's gonna move the needle for you, I think, when he comes back. He's gonna move the chains, figuratively and literally. So I really like Mike Evans.
Yeah, no, I like that take. What would you be willing to give up for Mike Evans? Because
What
Mike
would
Evans is also in that same situation.
I I'm sitting in that
He's
mid
old.
second too. I like that mid
Yeah.
second spot. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because A, it is Mike Evans. You're not going to get a third if you're
Hmm.
trading draft pick, and that's you're fleecing if you somehow get that. But I also think if you gave up a first, that'd be huge reach, and you don't need to do that. So I think a second would be a great spot pick wise to trade for Mike Evans.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think the first two, when we talk about Mike Evans, like I said with D Hop, if you're in a tough situation, I'll do a first. I would not be willing to do a first for Mike Evans strictly because of the injury. Um, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't hinder his performance. But it is still a risk that I would not be willing to put a first round draft pick up for Mike Evans,
Oh,
period.
he has had hamstring issues in the past, so this
Yeah.
kind of is like one of those injuries that he's been dealing with. He still puts up numbers, but it
Yeah.
is something that has stuck with him.
So, that being said, sticking with the wide receiver train, I guess, is Jacoby Myers has been able to thrive without Devontae Adams, and I'll make this quick because this pod's kind of running a little long, and I want to get to our favorite segment. But Jacoby Myers, I'd be willing to trade a second, or a third, maybe a second. He's been getting a lot of looks and been able to score points. And this dude is kind of creeping under the radar right now as someone that can just score you points right now because no one's paying attention to the Raiders. The Raiders is just off of, unless you have Brock Bowers, you're not watching the Raiders. The Raiders are a complete mess right now. We were talking about it with Max Crosby earlier. And I feel like Jacoby Myers owners know his value, so you're not going to be able to fleece, as we like saying. We won't be able to fleece him from anyone, but I definitely don't think that there's a lot of people trying to buy Myers right now, and I think that's definitely a good place to go. I don't know if you have any opinions on that, Ryan, that you would like to share.
I mean, for the most part, I agree with you right there. Um, I was in a conversation earlier with someone else in my office and fantasy, and he brought up Myers. So I don't think overall there's a large conversation about him right now, but there is definitely picking up steam. Um,
Yeah, so get ahead of it now.
you know,
Get it before you get into a trade war with someone. And my last one, make it super quick. I don't feel like there needs to be a lot of explanation for this because this dude is he's just built like that. Is TJ Hawkinson. He can be a league breaker, uh, for sure. This dude coming into this offense that's super hot right now. TJ will always put up points, and he's gonna be coming off an injury. I think he played one game. What did he score? Did he come back yet? I should have
I,
pulled this up earlier.
I gotcha. If you
Excuse
want
me.
to talk,
Yeah, he put up 5 points in this past week, and which is not great by any stretch of the means, but it was 3 receptions, 27 yards in his first game back, and he's only going to develop in this offense. You can kind of buy him on the panic that he only scored 5-7, and you were expecting him to do a lot more coming back into this offense. But remember, it takes time. He's 27. He should be reaching his prime when it comes to football and consistent tight ends. We look at the Kelseys. We look at um, the Gronk. We look at the Kittles. TJ's not going anywhere. Everyone needs to relax, and I think he's definitely worth to pick up if you're on a competitive team, especially on the tight end position where it can be so valuable to have a high scoring tight end. That being said, let's get into our favorite segment here at Dynasty Depot. Kind of laid back on the fantasy side of things. It's still going to be fantasy related, but let's get into our oh so serious. And I like usually ending the oh so serious, but I feel like Ryan has something because he foreshadowed it earlier in the episode. I don't know if the viewers caught on, but I want that to be last. And I will do the oh so serious first, and that is Bo Nix will be a league winner, and he is about to give the Chiefs their first loss this week. Him and Sutton are super hot right now. There is not a better duo in this league. We talk about league winners and who to target when you're competitive. I would go with Bo Nix and Sutton without a doubt in my mind. Sutton's tossing touchdown passes right now. He's had 200-yard games, I think back to back, and Bo Nix is learning this offense. I am not saying by any means that this is a competitive football team, but in terms of fantasy value, Bo Nix and Sutton are league winners in your fantasy football league this season, and I will stand by that. And that is my oh so serious take of the week.
As a Bo Nix manager, I really hate that he's sitting in my taxi right now. Um, I like it for the long term, but right now I have CJ Stroud just laying eggs. And with that, my oh so serious. If you watched last week, you're gonna hate me. Trade for AR or pick him up. I was lucky enough to try to scoop him up in a waiver. Um, look, man, am
You
I
want to
hot?
tell him who dropped him? How'd you get him in the waiver?
Andrew, right here, this guy.
I did drop him to
And
make room on my team.
that was not planned. That was not premeditated. I promise that was a very kosher waiver pickup. And I'll start out with saying this. My feelings about AR from last week have not changed. I don't think he will be good. But maybe I'm buying a little, maybe I got slipped a little bit of the Kool-Aid over the last week. But if you could pick AR off the waivers, dude, free money. Take that. Your worst case scenario next year. Well, we'll see how this year plays. If he's not doing good next year, drop him. I'm sure right now we have guys in IR. Um, my team has unfortunately been bitten by that bug, but we're gonna have guys coming back. You probably will too. If AR is sitting there on your bench just for the potential of maybe developing, I think that's worth it. If you can pick up ARs right now, he's selling low, and he's going to continue to sell low, I think, um, depending on how the Indianapolis offense comes out this week. Joe Flacco did not do anything, so I don't know who's starting this week. Um, but we're gonna find out, and I know I think for value long term, it's a why not? It's a lottery ticket. And I think that's how you should look at it. It is not something that you should be putting stock into. It's not something that you should be trusting early on. It is, hey, maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. If it hits, great. If it doesn't, eh. But if you have them, throw back to my take from last week. If you wasted a draft pick on this guy, get him out of there. That is not worth. Try to get some value back in your team and recover from that loss. But if you can get him off the waivers, man, I'd do it. Did I just piss
I
Andrew off?
I I
Also,
I, I would if we had an editor, I would just like input some of the argument from last week and just
I
keep
mean,
it
I
light.
have my
I'm not
notes.
gonna go into this.
I have my notes right here. You'd like me to bring them up?
No, I was just saying a lot of stuff that you were just saying there was verbatim almost of what I said last week in defense of AR. And I understand the fact of like drafting him versus waivers, but I don't agree with your take, which is the point of this is I don't I think if you drafted him and you were able to hold him, the reason I dropped him was because I have a couple of players in my team that I want to develop that I wasn't able to put in taxi squad. And I don't have the room to hold on to a dud QB, so I had to drop him in order to be able to use waiver wire, be able to use my roster effectively, so I didn't have the space to keep him. I think that if you're able to keep him with the same argument, even if you drafted him, that you should keep him. But if you want to know my whole opinion on that, go back to last episode because I go
I
pretty
will
in
make
depth.
a deal with you, and it is if he pops off for multiple, like 3 weeks in a row, I will trade you him back next year if he brings it for my second round back. I think you're getting value there. I will get my pick back from the Tank Bigsby Isaiah Likely trade, and you can hold my word. It's on recording.
Well,
If
we'll
he
talk about it later. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about that later. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys for listening. This has been Dynasty Depot, where defense matters. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for letting us be part of your day today. And Ryan and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.